Hello, I'm FBX and one of the Minecraft facts that shocks people the most when I first mention it is the fact that Minecraft Bedrock Edition is actually the most sold and also the most played version of Minecraft. In fact, it's sold more copies and it has more players than the other versions of Minecraft all combined together, which is pretty wild when you first hear it. But then the second question immediately asked afterwards is, so exactly what is Minecraft Bedrock again? And the simple answer is that it is a Windows UWP app, which means it's a universal app which can be deployed across pretty much any platform out there. And because of this, it's available on a whole host of different platforms, as you can see. And also because of this, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can control the game, and because of that, there's the huge debate over which of those devices is better. Is it better to play on a touchscreen, or is it better with a keyboard and mouse, or one of the various controllers that you can actually use? And in today's video, I figured I'd talk about not which one's better objectively, because there is a lot of preference, but each control method has secret controls that can only be used on that method. There are different ways of playing Minecraft, things you can physically only do on one platform but not another, and then use all of that together to talk about which version of the game I play and which control method I use, because a lot of people get confused when they see me doing weird things that just aren't possible on any Minecraft Bedrock platform by default out there. So that's what we're doing in today's video, and to start, we're going to jump right into the Pocket Edition, because you might assume, looking at the Pocket Edition, that like touchscreen controls are objectively inferior. And honestly, even though tactile feedback is something I really value, and it's something you no doubt value if you're watching this video, a lot of people like the touchscreen controls of Android and iOS versions of the game, and they would rather not go without them. So you might figure like, okay, so they're objectively inferior, except the fact that like touching's kind of cool. But here's something you can only do on the Pocket Edition version of the game, because for instance, if you're looking at a wall over here, on other versions, you can only punch what is directly in front of you. The whole crosshair system is in place in all those versions, but obviously if you've been playing Minecraft Pocket Edition, if you've ever played it, you'll know that one of the things that you can actually do is you can punch anything on screen by default, unless you have split controls turned on, which means I can look over here, intimidate someone, yet punch something over there. As you can see, I can punch something way off in the distance, which is kind of cool, right? You can actually punch stuff you're not directly looking at, which is pretty wild by itself, but you can also punch from a significantly further away distance on Pocket Edition, while playing creative mode, that is, for the most part, but you can punch stuff that's seriously far away you never assume you'd be able to. So like up there, for instance, again, I'm looking over here in the foreground, but yeah, I can punch what's over there because the touchscreen controls are built for that. The idea of this is to make it more palatable for a touchscreen, but it does mean there are technically abilities, even in PvP, even in Skywars, that you can only do on a touchscreen, and although it's not quite as useful as having a more tactile, feedback method, it's not as useful as many of the other things that you might personally want, it is still kind of cool that you can do it. So yeah, you can punch anything that is physically on your screen, no matter how kind of weird and out the way it is, because of the way Minecraft Pocket Edition works. You can punch into the corners, almost you can alternate between different corners at the same time, stand exactly still. By the way, I get game invites because Pocket Edition is, you can't turn them off, so big downside if you're someone like me, but you can punch blocks on opposite sides of the screen and kind of work into the center, which is something you can't do on other platforms. I love it personally, it's kind of cool. However, it's not the only exclusive you have on Minecraft Pocket Edition, because also this is the only version of the game which supports all three control methods. That's right, if you're playing on any touchscreen device, it's the only way you can technically switch back and forth between the three separate methods. There's keyboard and mouse, the main one. You can plug a keyboard and you can plug in a mouse to a phone. It takes a lot of doing, but you can do it. You can use a controller, again, plug in a controller, nice and easy, or you can use the touch methods. That's right, there's three control methods, and the phones / tablets, Android and iOS, plus Windows 10 Mobile, are the only versions where you can properly use all of them together, which is kind of cool in that way. And also, it's just worth noting, even though it's not technically an exclusive, it's exclusive for 95% of people who don't have text-to-speech enabled all the time. But if you want to say, for instance, oh, you can't do it while you're recording a video apparently, but you can talk into your phone mic and use text-to-speech, which means if you're one of those people who for some reason just can't type, can't spell, and you're like, wow, that means I just can't chat online, then you can technically do it using a phone. So this is the biggest advantage of a phone. It also, unlike certain other platforms, you can access the betas, so it has all of the technical capacities of a full-fledged Windows 10 / full-fledged console game, but also has a couple of advantages, but they're not quite as nice as the advantages you get on other platforms, as you might imagine, because for instance, if we switch over to the Xbox version, then you'll see how this version of the game has a couple of exclusives. The first one is the fact that the hotbar is slightly raised up from the bottom of the screen. So when it comes to Windows 10, this is slightly raised up, sometimes depending on your platform, beta version, etc. However, on phones, you get the hotbar at the bottom of the screen to save space. On the Xbox and Switch, you get the hotbar slightly raised up. So you might question, what exactly is the purpose of this? And the purpose of this is it's something sort of safe space. So when it comes to Minecraft, when it comes to any console game, game, the way it displays the TV is always going to be uncertain. A lot of TVs cut off the corners of their input methods for a lot of bad reasons, basically, and to prevent that cutting off your hotbar, Minecraft has raised the hotbar very slightly, which means you can actually see the bottom of your screen. If there's something down there, it's not covered by your hotbar, you can still see it, which is kind of a nice thing in my opinion. Also, another key difference here is the fact that Minecraft, Xbox, Minecraft, Switch, have a separate inventory menu. That's right, there's two separate inventories, which seems really absurd and pointless, because to show this is a real thing, let's go to the settings, and mention that even because we're on a console, we can use keyboard, mouse, or we can use controller. There is no touch to prove my previous point, but yeah, you can also see how when we go to keyboard and mouse, there is one inventory option. It's E by default, and that's it. You can use E to go to the inventory, or if you're on a controller, you can actually, as you can see right here, use X to go to crafting and Y to go to inventory. And that means that you can actually have two separate inventories, one as an actual inventory and one as a crafting menu, or if you're in creative, as a way to see the creative menu. So again, for the most part, this is mostly pointless, but sometimes there are, because a lot of people leave them both on the same thing. Here's now me pressing Y, here's me now pressing X. It's pointless if you leave them on the same thing, but if you change one to be an actual inventory and one to be crafting, that means you can have two separate inventories basically, one for seeing the crafting recipes or seeing the creative menu, and one for like going through all the stuff, and one for actually seeing what's actually in your personal inventory, which is really quite a useful thing. It sounds like it wouldn't be useful, but because Minecraft Bedrock does have its fair share of inventory glitches, etc., sometimes you want to just see everything in here, and sometimes you want to see everything here, which is kind of nice that you can actually separate the two, meaning in some situations you have a competitive edge while using the controller. It sounds like a small thing, but again, it's something you can only really do using a controller. At least that's my take on things, I would say. Next up, we've obviously got the fact that it's the only platform where you actually have granular creative controls. So that seems like a weird set of phrases, but what it is on every other platform, you can crouch to go down, you can jump to fly up while you're flying, just like this. But again, when you're using a controller, for some reason, most of this is because it was grandfathered in from the legacy console editions. There is something called the fly slow up and the fly slow down option. So we'll set this to up, or set this one to down, for instance, and now what we can actually do is we can fly up very slowly. So again, this seems pointless, like why would you need to fly up or fly down very slowly, but it's actually there again for if you're working on very small things, say half slabs at this rate. If you try to crouch down, you might go full block up, full block down, and although most of us can probably deal with that, sometimes you do want to slowly go up and use that to work on much more fine details, so you can work on something as specific as a torch at this distance without risk of breaking something else. Again, for most people not too useful, but because it isn't exclusive, it's something worth knowing about, whereas in other platforms you just have to kind of hold space for a few less seconds or hold jump for less of a time. On this platform, you have that dedicatedly built in. So yeah, that's the big advantages, the secret options that are only available on a controller. You might assume that's kind of small, but yeah, the PC's one is arguably smaller, but also more important at the same time. So let's switch over to there now. So this is the Windows 10 edition of the game, or Windows 10 UWP, or just Minecraft Windows 10, or Minecraft as Minecraft likes to call it. It's got a lot of different names, but it's the only technical PC version of the game available right now. You have to use that one OS, but it is still played by a lot of different people, and it also, interestingly enough, is the only version of the game which is, again, natively designed to be run by a keyboard. However, again, because it's a universal Windows platform game, you'll get the same responses and everything else. It's just this is the only platform where it's assumed that you're using a mouse and keyboard. So, explaining the benefits of mouse and keyboard, I'm sure I don't need to do it. I'm sure I'd be preaching to the choir. Like if you're into gaming, you probably know that there's a lot of big benefits to playing on a mouse and keyboard. The higher DPI, so if I want to spin, for instance, I can do that a lot faster. A lot of people like WASD, even though again, I would argue that an analog input is more ideal for something like this. But definitely the mouse over the right stick or the mouse over a touchscreen, it's hard to argue that there's anything worse about this, and it's easy to talk about. However, the big advantages to Windows 10 are not just the fact that oh, you get a mouse and that's kind of nice, because again, you can have a mouse on a Xbox, you can have a mouse on a phone. So what's the other big advantages? Well, the first one, and this one's kind of weird that there's just no option to even bind this and anything else, is because the because a keyboard has a bunch of keys, most of which aren't used by Minecraft. You have a bunch of different options that just aren't available on a platform, such as if you use the left and right square bracket. Don't ask me why they picked left and right square bracket, but left and right square bracket will immediately take you across these different things. Admittedly, you can just move your cursor and click in that way on every other platform, but again, and that's how most people do on PC. But if you want to scroll across these really quickly, for instance, you can hold down, you can do is rapidly tap the button, and you'll go across them really quickly. So there you go. That's a fun and maybe useful thing for you. Also, it's worth noting, you can scroll across the hotbar like you can on other platforms, one at a time, or you can use the number keys to immediately switch between them. So if you want to go from 1 to 5, every other platform, I mean, you can touch directly on a touchscreen, but you know, that's still, again, it takes some time. On PC, you can, while still moving, you can just tap, immediately go from 1 to 3 to 7 to 1, etc. 1 to 9 are also inventory buttons, and again, this comes from Java Edition. It's kind of grandfathered in from a different version of the game, but it does still mean that if you want to switch inventory methods, so again, let's just say I have 9 separate things, but I want to switch rapidly between a block of diamonds and between scaffolding, and for some reason they're in different slots because there has to be stuff in between. Well, it's really handy to switch immediately between the block of diamond and the scaffolding, which is only doable on Pocket Edition, but slower, and not doable at all on console, at least right now, without a keyboard attached. So yeah, every single version of Minecraft, every single input method does have its own advantages, and again, to go through the rest of them, it's worth mentioning that having a keyboard directly plugged in means that you can obviously type a lot faster. Minecraft needs a lot of stuff like this, and doing commands on a phone is kind of tricky. Doing commands on a controller without a keyboard plugged in is literally insanity. You know, like you basically can't do it without slowly going insane. However, on a keyboard and mouse, all you need to do, press T, open the stuff, press the thing, and then go out there. You see my high quality sentence I just typed, but yeah, you can do like stuff on the go, which is kind of nice. So this isn't technically input method related, but it is the main platform you're playing in related. So there are things such as on consoles, you can't pick your own servers, and there are things such as if you're on a Windows 10 device, it tries to base it on your specs, but you can easily choose those if you want to. Basically, Minecraft's render distance varies hugely from platform. For instance, my phone gives me a maximum of 22 chunks, my Xbox gives me a maximum of 22, a Switch gives you something like 14 to 16, I've heard some iPhone XSs will give you like 30 chunks. They try to work out what render distance max you can use on any platform, but if you're on a Windows 10 device, this is where you get the highest render distance. There's no real even need to have 72, but if your PC can run it, why not have 72 chunks render distance? This is actually where the fact that this is a UWP game comes in quite handy, because you might think that like, oh, Minecraft caters to the lower end denominator, but to some extent it's true. Like the fact that this game is playable on a touchscreen competently, playable on a controller competently, and a keyboard and mouse at the same time is something very few games manage. The fact that it's technically the same code running on all 3 platforms is even more impressive, but the fact that it can scale up based on your platform means that this is the best running version of Minecraft just because it can load in and out of worlds instantly. If you have a high-end device for Minecraft, it should do some good things with that power, which is honestly not, it sounds like it's a bad thing that it caters only to lower ends, and when you hear about stuff like Amplified, that is mostly a bad thing, but when we're talking about positive improvements, it does have its fair share of things. So now let's talk about, now we've gone through like, okay, so PC keyboard I think has, Windows 10 has a lot of advantages, probably the most of all of them, but the phone does have a big, its own share, and so does the controller. Let me talk about now why I play on a controller, and why I have a keyboard plugged in at the same time, because personally, I really like controller as an input method. I think, honestly, what this all comes down to is it's mostly personal preference. It's just every platform has its advantages and disadvantages. However, so I like controller. I think it's the most comfortable, device to play on any TV that's at a distance. It's also quite comfortable, even when I'm playing at a monitor distance. I like it the most. It's the one I feel the most competent with most of the time. I know that can change. It's all based on what you use the most. But personally, I find it most comforting. Maybe you agree with that, disagree with that. However, if you do play on a controller, but you feel like you want to have the full advantages of Minecraft as a game, I fully recommend playing on a controller with a keyboard attached. So I have a controller attachment for my Xbox, if you want to see it. In fact, I can show you it right now. Switch right here. You can see, here's my controller. It has a little keyboard attached to the little bit there, which means you can have the best of both worlds. If you really, really like the comfort of playing from a distance, you like the comfort of a controller, but you like the benefits of keyboard, you can do that too. So let me show you something actually that you can only do with a weird combination of these two things. So we go back, we remove me from the screen. I can show you right here how, okay, so just look at this right here. I've got myself, a controller, etc. We go into the inventory and we want to throw away, okay, let's just got a bunch of stuff right here. If you want to throw something away in Minecraft, there is a drop item button. However, if you're playing with a controller attached, you can also drop items directly from the inventory. You can also do it on phones, but only by holding. It's not instantaneous, but if you want to drop, say, this on Minecraft Bedrock on a controller, you have to drag it away like that. It's kind of annoying if you want to get rid of a lot of stuff. It takes a lot of time. But if you wanted to, say, get rid of all of these individual wood stairs, it's like, it's going to take forever to drag them away. What you can do with a keyboard attached is press the Q button and immediately drop it. So you can have the best of both worlds. You can get a lot of the advantages of the keyboard you know, again, the keyboard part, not the mouse part, while having the advantages of the controller, which, like I said, I think the controller's left analog stick, an analog input is objectively better than a digital input for movement in Minecraft. You can make really weird diagonal angles that just aren't possible on a keyboard. So look at this, I can spin in a circle slowly, rather than like a weird diagonal like that, diagonal like this, diagonal forwards. You know, on a keyboard, you have 8 options to move by. It's kind of still true on phones. On a controller, you have 360 degrees, or it's not actually, it's more like 16 different angles, but you have theoretically 360 degrees worth of movement. But then the keyboard advantages, stuff like being able to drop stuff like that, stuff like being able to go 1, 3, 5, etc., really, really handy. If you want to do things such as, you know, good example right here, type stuff in the game. Hi, my name is Toycat. You can do that. Again, it pulls up the Xbox menu still for some reason, but you can do that, have the advantages of the Xbox auto correct system. So like, hi, my name down for, let's just do the default ones, down for an hour, or so, and so is it okay to come to the gym, and then I will be in touch. There you go. You see that? That's not possible. What is that? That's, hi, my name down for an hour or so, and so it okay, come to the gym, and then I will be in touch. See, that right there, that's the new channel motto, and that's something you can only do with the weird combination of controller and keyboard. It's not the best input method for everyone. It's not the best if you don't like controllers. If you've never used a controller in your life, stick to the mouse and keyboard, or the touchscreen. But if you like controllers, or if you're playing on a phone and you're considering upping your game because there's all you know, battles you're losing, a controller is a more compact method because it combines the keyboard and mouse into one input method, and then you can even add on to your controller a keyboard on top of that. So that is why I recommend this. It's the best combination of both agility and portability, and actually, you know, ease of use, with also all the powers that you would otherwise want to use. Want to type in commands, for instance, go to game mode survival. You can do that really easily on this version of the game, and that is why I use my particular input method. I know it confuses a lot of people, but I figured I'd put together this video just to mostly explain, like, so what is the deal with me and my various input methods? And the simple answer to that question is that everyone has their advantages. Try to get the best of both worlds. However, to round up everything that I've said and say, you're not, technically speaking though, the best device to play Minecraft on is arguably a phone, because you can use the touchscreen and that advantages, use a keyboard and mouse and those advantages, and also use a controller. It's just you'd be insane to literally use all 3 input methods at the same time. But if you want the best of Minecraft, all worlds, then plug in a keyboard and mouse plus a controller. You'll need a USB hub, but it's technically doable. Plus, you need to charge the phone too, to a phone, and then you'll have a good time. Also, you need to plug in a display because phone screens are small and the UI takes up most of the screen. But if you do all of those things together, technically speaking, yeah, a phone with all those things plugged in is the best. However, otherwise, I like the controller/keyboard, and also keyboard and mouse has a lot of benefits. But yeah, hopefully this video was useful. Hopefully it didn't sound like a crazy man slowly falling down the rabbit hole of insanity. If it did, then let me know with a like on this video that maybe I should get some help and stop talking about input methods. If you did actually like it, you can also hit the like button, and honestly, liking doesn't help on YouTube. It's just one of those things where, like, I feel obliged to fish for likes at the end, so if you feel obliged to give likes, then maybe you could do that. However, if you want to actually, maybe help out in some way, then obviously hitting the notification bell is the best way to tell me that, yeah, you really like this and you want to see more of these videos on your homepage. It's you sending a signal to YouTube that, yeah, actually, more of this guy would be good, and if you would click that, I'd appreciate it. But in case you don't want to, then, you know, I don't want to see you anymore, so goodbye.